At my parents' 40th anniversary party, my mother leaned into the microphone, smiled at the room full of guests, and said, "We wish you were never born." No argument, no warning, just silence, and every eye on me. I didn't cry, I didn't leave in a rush. I stood up and decided that would be the last lie they ever told about our family. Because what no one in that room knew was this. While they were clinking glasses and praising 40 years of perfect parenting, a video was already scheduled to go live. Emails were queued, receipts were loaded. Their celebration wasn't the end of the night, it was the setup. In less than 30 minutes, the reputation they spent decades protecting would collapse. Not because I yelled, not because I begged, but because I finally let the truth speak in their own voices. Before you keep watching, I need you to do one thing. If you've ever been the invisible one in your family, the child who was tolerated, not chosen, the one who learned to stay quiet just to keep the peace, stay with me. Don't skip ahead. Don't assume you know where this goes. Because this story isn't about shouting or revenge fantasies. It's about what happens when someone stops begging to be loved and starts letting the truth finish the conversation for them. And by the end, you'll understand why walking away was the loudest thing I ever did. My name is Lana Everett, and this is the night my family erased me. So I erased the story they'd been hiding behind. I vanished from my family, but not before making sure they'd never forget me. It happened at the end of a toast. My father was still holding his wine glass when my mother leaned into the microphone, turned to me, and said with that same polite smile she'd worn my whole life, "We wish you were never born." The room fell into a stuttering silence. Champagne flutes paused midair. Someone dropped a fork. The jazz trio in the corner kept playing like nothing had changed, but everything had. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I didn't plead for them to take it back. I just stood up, slowly, deliberately. "Then I'll disappear," I said, with a calm so cold it made her flinch. I leaned in just enough to catch the mic. "You want to see what happens when disappointment listens? Watch closely." My voice sliced through the quiet. My exit was clean, silent, surgical. But I wasn't just walking out. I was setting something in motion. Behind me, my father cursed. Someone called my name. None of them knew yet what I'd been planning for weeks. They thought I was just leaving, but I'd already hit confirm. At that moment, a scheduled video post was rolling out across social media. A string of emails had just fired off. And their 40th anniversary party, the celebration they thought would polish their reputation, was about to become a permanent stain. They thought that was the worst thing I'd ever hear from them. But they had no idea what I'd prepared in silence. 30 minutes before my mother dropped the final blow into that microphone, I was standing behind the dessert table, pretending to adjust the floral centerpiece on a tiered cake I designed myself. Guests floated around in linen suits and pastel dresses, laughter bouncing off the string lights, the air thick with warm nostalgia. I had built this night, the concept, the decor, the visuals, every photo that made them look untouchable. I handed them the pedestal they were about to fall from. To everyone in that cafe, my parents were icons. A surgeon and a judge, married 40 years, still holding hands in photos like high school sweethearts. People from church came to honor them. Business partners offered toasts. Neighbors beamed like they were attending a royal ceremony. My older brother Tyler stood near the bar, effortlessly entertaining a group with a story about a complicated surgery he'd performed. Everyone hung on his every word. Sophia, my younger sister, glowed under the praise of professors and colleagues. Law school, clerkship offers, a golden track lined with applause. And me, not a single person asked about my work. I used to tell myself it wasn't personal, that I was just different. Art wasn't like medicine or law. It didn't fit into dinner toasts or LinkedIn updates. So I smiled, stayed quiet, and let them introduce me as an afterthought. Our surgeon, our future judge. And this is Lana, she paints. That was my role, the one outside the frame, the one they could crop out without disrupting the image. That night, I started recording, voice memos on my phone. I stood in hallways with my finger hovering over the record button, listening through cracked doors. What I caught wasn't explosive, it was worse, routine cruelty. If we hadn't had her, we'd be retired in France by now, my mother said once over tea with a friend. She's just decorative, my father grumbled on a call. Tyler laughed on speakerphone. She'll be back home within a year when her little art phase fails. Sophia once said to my mother, "We all had to carry Lana. She's the practice child." The clips weren't dramatic. They were plain, dismissive, constant. But I realized something important. If I stitched those voices together, played them alongside the images they were so proud to show the world, their wedding, their kids, their house, would anyone still believe we were a perfect family? They had built a narrative. I was about to rewrite it. The college fund wasn't just missing. It had been erased, not loudly, not dramatically, quietly, methodically, in pieces small enough that no one ever thought I'd notice. That was the moment restraint stopped being a virtue. I sat alone in my car that afternoon, the folder still open on my phone, rereading the transfers like they might rearrange themselves into something forgivable if I stared long enough. They didn't. What stayed with me wasn't even the money. It was the certainty behind it. They never meant to tell me. They never planned to replace it. They had already decided my future was expendable. I thought back to every conversation where I'd minimized myself for them. Every time I'd said, "It's fine, I'll figure it out," while they nodded with visible relief. Every holiday where I paid for my own flight, while Tyler's tickets were handled. Every birthday where Sophia got something practical and impressive and I got a scarf, or a journal, or nothing. This wasn't neglect. This was a system, and I was the cost. That night, I didn't confront them. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. I opened a new note on my phone and wrote a single sentence. If I speak now, they'll lie. If I wait, they'll expose themselves. That sentence became my rule. I stopped trying to be understood and started observing instead. I listened to how casually my mother rewrote history when she thought no one would challenge her. I noticed how my father spoke about legacy as if it were a club membership with limited seats. I watched my siblings absorb praise like oxygen, never once wondering who it was taken from. And I realized something colder, something steadier. They didn't hate me, they just didn't consider me real. So I became deliberate. I recorded everything. Not out of rage. Rage rushes and ruins timing. I recorded with the patience of someone collecting evidence, not for court, but for clarity. Every clip went into a folder labeled archive. Every file was dated. Every moment was cataloged. I wasn't building a tantrum. I was building a record. And once I had it, once I could hear the pattern instead of isolated moments, the decision stopped feeling emotional. It felt necessary. That's when my mother called. "Lana," she said, brisk and distracted. We want to do something special for the anniversary. You're artsy, you can make it look nice. I smiled into the phone. I said yes. That was the moment revenge stopped being theoretical, not explosive, not impulsive, intentional. I wasn't planning to punish them. I was going to show them. I didn't rush. That's the part people misunderstand later. The idea that revenge is chaotic, emotional, loud. Mine was quiet, organized, almost boring in its precision. I started with the slideshow. That way you don't have to worry about it, I told my mother a month before the party. Something sentimental, classic. She barely looked up from her laptop. Just don't make it weird, Lana. People want something tasteful. Tasteful was exactly what I gave them. At first, I scanned every photograph they loved. Their wedding day, framed like a fairy tale. Baby Tyler wrapped in blue, Sophia in pink. Family vacations where I existed only on the edges, half-cropped, half-remembered. I built the opening exactly how they expected it to look. Soft piano music, smiling faces, captions about love, sacrifice, legacy. Anyone could sit back and relax. That was the point. Then I opened a new folder on my desktop and named it Truth. Into it went the audio files. My mother's voice, crisp and irritated. We should have stopped encouraging her drawings years ago. My father, dismissive. She's just expensive decoration. Tyler laughing. She'll never last on her own. Sophia, flat and certain. We all carry her. I didn't edit the words. I let them speak. Next came the receipts, screenshots of the college fund statements. Each transfer highlighted, each date visible. I zoomed in on my mother's note, better to invest in the real futures, and held it there long enough that no one could claim they'd missed it. Then I layered in my art, the pieces they'd refused to hang, portraits that twisted familiar faces into something brittle and cracked, smiles that looked fine until you stared too long, eyes made of broken lines and sharp shadows. The images weren't accusatory on their own. Paired with the audio, they became unavoidable. I tested everything, again and again. The cafe's projector, the sound system, the timing. I saved the final file under a harmless name, anniversary_final.mp4. Then I made backups. One copy lived on the cafe laptop. One on a USB hidden in my clutch. One uploaded to a private cloud folder. And one more thing, a scheduled post. The caption was simple. Here's what 40 years of perfect parenting looked like to the child they wished they never had. The visibility was set to public. The time was locked for 30 minutes after I planned to leave the party. I drafted emails too, not emotional ones, short, clinical, links attached, sent to my father's professional circle, the hospital board where Tyler worked, and a few of Sophia's mentors. I hovered over that send button many nights. I stared at the draft email. The cursor blinked beside the word attached, like it was waiting for me to reconsider. My thumb hovered over send, not in fear, but in something harder to name. A flicker of doubt. A voice in my head whispering, what if this only makes it worse? What if they twist it? What if no one believes me? What if all this does is turn me into the villain they already think I am? I closed my eyes, took a breath. Then I remembered my mother's handwriting beside the college fund transfers. Better to invest in the real futures. And I realized something. They weren't afraid of the truth. They just assumed I'd never speak it. That's when I clicked Save as Draft. Not yet, not tonight. But the decision had been made. The moment would come. And when it did, it would be undeniable. I didn't click it then. Not because I was afraid, because timing matters. By the week of the anniversary, everything was in place. Nothing depended on me being brave in the moment. Courage was optional. The structure would hold without it. All I had to do was show up and play the role they expected. The invisible daughter, the helpful one, the harmless one. They never noticed how carefully I smiled. The day of the party, I arrived early. "Thank you for helping," my mom said, walking past without waiting for a response. She was adjusting her corsage in the window, not bothering to look at me. "It's not about you tonight, Lana. Please, no drama." I matched her reflection in the glass. "No drama," I repeated. "Of course." Inside, everything glowed. Candles on each table, white drapery, photos looping silently on the screen while guests mingled. The piano trio tuning up, the perfect celebration of a perfect couple, or so they believed. Tyler was magnetic as always, wearing a tailored navy suit, drink in hand, laughing too loud. Sophia had arrived with her mentor from law school. People gathered near her like bees to sugar. My parents floated through the crowd, accepting praise like it belonged to them by birthright. I moved through the room like smoke, smiling, greeting, placing napkins. No one asked how I was doing, not once. Dinner was all salmon and speeches, toasts stacked like a tower of self-congratulation. Tyler's speech hit every note: discipline, ambition, gratitude. Sophia followed with polished perfection, painting our parents as visionary guides who believed in us before we believed in ourselves. When my mother took the mic, her voice trembled in that performance way. She practiced during church committee announcements. "We've been blessed," she said. "Our children have made us proud." Then she looked right at me. "Some of them," she added, light as air. Polite laughter rippled through the crowd. I didn't flinch. It barely stung. I'd already heard worse. She returned to her seat beside me, cheeks flushed from wine and applause. Someone suggested I say a few words. "Oh, Lana," she said, loud enough for the entire table. "She's better with pictures than people. Let her draw us a thank you card." The table laughed again. She leaned in, her voice a whisper, but not low enough to escape the microphone inches from her hand. "You're only sitting here because we were too soft. We should have fixed this years ago." A pause, then she said it. "Sometimes I truly wish you were never born." The silence that followed was absolute. Forks midair, glasses frozen. Even the band stopped. The mic caught every syllable. I didn't stand up in anger. I didn't cry. I just rose, slowly, and looked her in the eye. "Then I'll disappear," I said, calm, final. She gasped softly. "Lana, sit down. You're making a scene." I laughed, short, sharp. "No, Mother. A scene is what happens when people don't know the truth. That ends tonight." I turned to the room, gave them the first real smile I'd worn all evening. "You came to celebrate their perfect love story," I said. "Stay for the sequel." Then I walked out. Past Sophia's stunned face, past Tyler's hand half-reaching, past my father's grimace. As I neared the sound booth, Jess caught my eye. She'd been working at the cafe for years, the only person who knew what was coming. Her hand hovered above the play button. I didn't speak. I nodded once. She nodded back. Outside, the night air hit like a slap and a blessing. My phone buzzed, a scheduled notification. The post was 25 minutes from going live. The emails were queued. The USB was loaded. The cafe's lights were dimming for the slideshow. They thought I'd caused a scene. They hadn't seen anything yet. I didn't go far. There's a narrow alley beside the cafe where the kitchen staff takes smoke breaks. I leaned against the cool brick wall, just out of sight from the glowing windows, close enough to hear the hum of the party, muffled by glass and illusion. 12 minutes had passed since I walked out, 18 to go. I kept my phone in my hand, watching the seconds slide by like wet paint. A message lit up. Jess, they're settling again. Your mom's acting like nothing happened. You ready? I typed back. Lana, wait for the slideshow cue. Don't stop it, no matter what happens. Jess, got you, another buzz. This time from my mother. Mom, come back now, we'll talk after. Stop being dramatic. I let the notification fade. Inside, they were resetting the illusion, reconstructing the mask. I didn't need to stop them. I'd already built a spotlight they couldn't escape. I opened my social media app, post scheduled, caption ready. This is what 40 years of perfect parenting looks like from the child they erased. Public, comments on, shareable, a countdown, 16 minutes. Inside, someone tapped a glass, laughter again. Then silence. The cafe lights dimmed slightly, cue for the slideshow. My heart didn't race, it slowed. Precision does that. Another buzz. Jess, it's on. They clapped when your name came up in the title. Your mom looks smug, your dad looks bored. Perfect. The first frame, my parents on their wedding day, cheap string lights overhead, real hope in their eyes. Then baby Tyler, then baby Sophia, Christmas mornings, matching outfits, the whole performance. I imagined the sighs, the tissue dabs, my mother misting up, and then a sharp fade to black, silence. Then her voice, sharp and undeniable. We should have stopped encouraging her sketches years ago. Art is not a career. Jess, people are stiff. Looking around, your mom froze. The next clip, a bank statement, Lana Everett College Fund, balance, 23 cents. Highlighted transfers, transfer to Tyler Everett, medical loan. Transfer to Sophia Everett, bar prep fees. My father's voice layered on top. At least the other two turned out right. She'll never notice. She's not built for real life. Jess, someone dropped a glass. Your mom stood up. She's trying to say it's fake. Next, a quiet phone recording. My mother on speaker. Lana's a drain. If we'd stopped at 2 kids, we'd be in Italy by now. On screen, one of my private paintings. My mother, perfectly smiling with a twisted shadow behind her that grew into something monstrous. Then the line they all remembered from 10 minutes earlier. Sometimes I truly wish you were never born. This time it played over a freeze frame. Me at the table, eyes wide, jaw set. Then it cut to a childhood photo, me half-cropped from a family picture. Not quite in, not quite out. Jess, your dad tried to pull the plug. Too late, people are filming. Jess, one of his clients just stormed out, said, "You stole from your kid?" Jess, Sophia's mentor is arguing with her by the cake table. It's chaos. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Unknown, you're disgusting. Unknown, I'm so sorry, I never knew. Collector 57, your work is stunning. Let's talk about a show. Inside, the video reached the final segment. My voice this time, pre-recorded and steady. This is what it feels like to be the child they chose last every time. The child they used to build their legacy, then erased from the record. This isn't revenge. This is clarity. You taught me that reputation matters more than truth. Tonight, I chose truth. Fade to black, silence, then shouting, not from me, from them. Right on cue, my phone buzzed again. Notification. Your video is now live. Likes, shares, comments, names I recognized, names I didn't. A crowd watching a perfect legacy splinter in real time. The cafe, once filled with applause, now looked like the aftermath of a scandal no one could mop up. Phones still filming, glasses abandoned. A reality no slideshow could replace? 30 minutes after I walked out, the party was over. Not with a bang, but with clarity. The morning after the video went live, I didn't check my phone right away. I didn't need to. I knew. Jess had slipped a note under my apartment door before heading to her morning shift. They're calling it the Anniversary Massacre. Brace yourself. When I finally powered on my phone, it vibrated with the kind of rage only truth can ignite. Notifications spilled across the screen like a flood. Friend requests, interview offers, hate mail, support threads, apologies from strangers, and one message that stopped me cold. Mom's face is a meme now. There she was, mid-scoff, mid-insult, freeze-framed, forever. Someone had added text, "We wish you were never born." Above it, in clean white font. Below it, "Okay, bet." The internet had turned my pain into performance. It was viral. It was humiliating. It was mine. A few messages cut deeper than I expected. A woman from church, someone who used to praise my patience in Sunday school, wrote, "You didn't just hurt your parents, you humiliated them. One day you'll regret this." Maybe she's right. Maybe I will. But for years I swallowed regret like it was medicine. Quiet, necessary, daily, and none of it ever made them see me. So no, I didn't regret the truth. I only regretted how long I let them speak over it. For a few days, my family disappeared. Then the damage reports began. Tyler called first, not to apologize, to accuse. "You destroyed everything," he hissed, his voice low, like someone afraid of being overheard. "You have no idea what you've done." "I showed people what you said," I replied. "You did the rest." "The board is investigating me. Patients are canceling. They think I exploited you." "Did you?" I asked. Silence. Then he hung up. Next came Sophia. Her voice wasn't icy, it trembled. "My firm wants to know if there's more files, more audio. They're worried about reputation fallout. My clerkship is under review." I closed my eyes, leaning back. "You called me the practice child," I said. "You laughed while they stripped my future for yours." "You didn't have to do it like this," she snapped, a flicker of her old confidence. "You could have talked to us." "You could have talked to me," I cut in, "years ago, but you didn't." She went quiet. Then she hung up too. My parents were last. They waited until a local station picked up the story. A segment aired, "Behind the Perfect Family, a Daughter's Exposé." Clips of my video, blurry screenshots of the bank statements, the note from my mother, on screen for all to see. Better to invest in the real futures. That's when my father called. His voice was tight, cold, like a man trying not to panic. "If you take the video down," he said, "we'll say it was edited, that you were struggling emotionally. We'll get ahead of it." I laughed, a single sharp sound. "You still think I'll let you use me as your shield?" "If this continues, I could lose everything," he pushed. "Your mother's being ostracized at church. The neighbors talk. We might have to sell the house." He thought that would move me. It didn't. "I raised you," he said. "We fed you. You drained my college fund," I cut in. "You erased me, and now you want me to erase the truth." He didn't deny it. And that's when I realized I'd finally outrun their script. A few days later, the message came in. Gallery owner. Lena, saw your video. Raw. Brilliant. Your work deserves to be seen. Let's talk. I almost deleted it, assuming it was a prank. It wasn't. There was a Zoom call, then a contract, then a date. 3 months from that night, my work would hang on white walls under warm lights. People would come, not because they pitied me, but because they wanted to see what I made from the wreckage. The gallery wanted to call the show conditional. You don't have to talk about your family, Lena said, but you should know people see themselves in your story. They feel seen. And she was right. My inbox began to flood with messages. They used my fund for my brother, too. I was the invisible one. Thank you for saying what I never could. It was surreal to be villain and survivor at the same time, to be the fire and the burn. The night of the show, the gallery was packed. More people than I expected. More than I wanted, if I'm honest. Some came for the art, some for the story. Some just wanted something dramatic to post on their socials. But all of them came because I had become visible. I wore black, clean lines, no jewelry. I didn't want to be a spectacle. Each piece hung under soft, warm lighting. Each had a small card, title, medium, year, and nothing more. The stories were in the brush strokes, in the torn textures, in the layers of ripped receipts, and phrases reassembled into something else. One piece showed a family of 5 at a dinner table, 4 painted in full detail. The 5th, a transparent silhouette fading into the wallpaper. Another, a self-portrait. My face, fragmented and rebuilt from shredded text messages and overdraft notices. But the one people couldn't stop circling was mounted in the center of the room, a large canvas split down the middle. On the left, my parents at their anniversary party, smiling mid-toast, their faces glowing in golden light. On the right, the same image, fractured like broken porcelain. Their smiles warped, their eyes empty. Their reflections shattered into a dozen versions of me. Child me, teenager me, the version of me, walking out of that cafe. Beneath it, a small black title card, "We wish you were never born." I stood across the room from it, sipping sparkling water, trying to stay grounded. Lena sidled up beside me, clipboard in hand, blazer sharp. "We've already sold 4 pieces," she said quietly, "including that one." I blinked. Really? Anonymous buyer, paid in full, no negotiation. Something knotted in my stomach. That canvas wasn't meant to hang in someone's living room. It was a wound, stretched and dried. Still, I nodded, detached. That was the point, wasn't it? To let the work speak for itself. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Until the second buzz, then the third. Dad calling, I stared at the screen. Then slipped out of the gallery and into a quiet side hallway, where the sound of clinking glasses and murmured praise dulled behind thick walls. I answered, silence on the other end. Then, "Lana." I didn't speak. "We saw the photos," he said, "of your show, your mother." He paused. "She can't look at them, but she keeps the articles open on her phone." The image landed sharp in my mind, my mother scrolling through my work, her finger hovering above each headline, not reading the praise, only measuring the shame. "Our house is quiet now," he said. "Tyler moved out. Sophia barely calls. People don't invite us to things anymore. Your mother stopped going to church. The clinic's closing. We might sell the house." I let the words settle. He wasn't sharing grief. He was naming casualties. "You're telling me this because you want pity?" I asked. "Not cruel, just steady. "I'm telling you because you should know," he said. "You got what you wanted." I tilted my head back, stared at the cracked ceiling paint. Did I? He didn't answer. "You ruined us," he said, voice nearly breaking. "Your own family." I exhaled, slow and quiet. I didn't ruin anything. I just turned the lights on. More silence, then barely audible. "She cries, you know, at night. She says she wishes she could take it back. The part of revenge no one posts about is this, not the collapse, the hollowness after, when the villains soften and regret, and you realize the pain didn't leave. It just shifted rooms." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I don't know what to do with her anymore," he said. "And because I wonder." He hesitated. "Did you ever love us at all?" The question landed like a bruise. "I did," I said. "That's what makes this hurt." He said nothing. "If we asked to see you," he said eventually, "would you come?" Inside, someone laughed loudly. Applause followed. I heard my name in the echo. Once, the answer would have been simple. Of course I'd come. Of course I'd fix it. Now I paused, not because I didn't care, but because I finally knew I had a choice. "I don't know," I said. "Not yet." He exhaled slowly, as if bracing for it. "That's fair," he said. "If I decide," I added, "I'll call you." Then I hung up before he could say my name again. Back in the gallery, the light felt softer. Jess was telling someone a wildly animated version of the party. Lena waved me toward a reporter. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Mom, I'm outside." I walked toward the front of the gallery, weaving through soft conversations and the low hum of ambient music. Just behind the glass, on the sidewalk, stood my mother. No makeup, hair pulled back into a tight knot. Her coat was plain, her shoes sensible. She looked smaller, like she'd shrunk since the night she tried to erase me with a single sentence. She wasn't moving, wasn't knocking, just staring through the window, frozen before the title. Conditional. New Works by Lana Everett. She clutched her purse like a shield. Her eyes scanned the lettering like she didn't quite believe it was mine. I thought about opening the door, letting her speak, letting her say the thing I'd waited years to hear. "I'm sorry, I didn't know. You were right." But I didn't move. I imagined all the versions of how it could go. Her tears, my forgiveness. Or maybe not. Maybe just silence, a beginning or an ending. None of those imagined scenes felt true. So I did nothing. I just stood there, the daughter she tried to erase, standing behind glass etched with my name, surrounded by people who saw me not as a mistake, but as a creator. My phone vibrated in my hand again. She didn't wave, and I didn't open the door. I stayed just inside the glass, watching her the way she'd watched me my whole life, from a distance, from behind something, always looking through me, never at me. The symmetry hit me all at once. She was outside now, on the edge of a story she no longer controlled. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there, the daughter she tried to erase, framed now by her own absence, under lights I'd earned myself. I had spent years trying to be chosen. Tonight I chose myself.